Hi, Chris Cannon here, and I bet you're probably wondering how to get kids to stop talking back. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. Stay tuned. Our job as adults is not to get kids to accept the rationality behind our decision. Our job is to get them to follow our instructions. Talking back actually comes from a place of powerlessness and frustration. And so when kids are told no, they feel like their only way to get whatever it is that they feel like they lost at that time is to talk back. And so when they talk back to us, they're only trying to gain ground from the ground that they've already lost. There's various forms of talking back. One form is when you have the kid that no matter what you say, they continue to talk back and they feel like no matter what, they have to have the last word. The other form is when you have a young person that even though you say no, they continuously explain because they feel like you're saying no because you don't have enough information or you don't understand the situation, and if you did, you wouldn't say no to it. So they feel like that even after you say no, they have to continuously come after you and explain to help you better understand their situation. Unfortunately, in either situations, both the adults and the child end up frustrated. One thing you have to do is stop responding to backtalk, especially after you've set the boundary and the expectation and you've given your reason why. Just stop. If they continue on, doesn't mean that you have to. Because when you continue on, then that means they're controlling you and you're feeding into what they want you to actually do. You've already set the expectation and you've given a reason why, so just stop. At times, the adult takes on the role of the child in terms of the mindset, because they feel like they have to further explain to give more evidence to help this child understand their reasoning. And when they give more and more evidence, they don't realize that the child is only going to see what they want to see. So no matter how much more evidence you give, sometimes they're never going to see your position. And so when adults just continuously engage in the talking back by giving further explanation, they feel like the child does in their mindset that I need to give them more information so they can understand my perspective. Because obviously, if they understood my perspective, they wouldn't argue with me and just accept my perspective as what it is. Once you give a reasonable explanation for your choice, your job is done. If you want to repeat it, just to make sure there's clarification just momentarily, that's fine. But once you continuously try to give evidence and prove to that child that you're right, and they continuously challenge you, you only end up frustrated and being controlled by the child because they kept you going even when you wanted to stop. Again, your job is not to get them to fully agree and understand your reasoning. Your job is to get them to follow your instructions. Look at it this way. If you're doing 90 on the freeway because you think the speed limit should be 90, 70 or 65, that's too slow. You think it's supposed to be 90. When the police pull you over, they're not going to ask you, why were you going 90 miles an hour? Well, they might, but they really don't care. But even when they give you the law, because they're going to tell you you're speeding. The reason why I'm pulling you over is because you're speeding. When they pull you over and you continuously argue with them, they're not going to keep going back and forth with you. They're going to repeat the law is this and that's that. And more than likely, they're going to give you a ticket. They're going to walk away, even if you keep talking. Now, if you choose to act crazy, what are they going to do? They're going to take you to jail, lock you up, and you got to pay a lot of money. There's going to be a consequence. When it comes to young people, you give the consequence the same way. If they continue, you ignore it. But if they choose to act crazy, let them understand that there's going to be consequences like it is with you if you act crazy with the police. The law and the agreements as adults are the same thing. And so we have to allow young people to understand that, listen, this is what it is. Even if they don't fully understand, this is still the agreement, the law, if you will, when it comes to us as the adults in control. One of the most effective ways to end talking back is to come up with boundaries and agreements when things are good. So not when there's a conflict between you and that child, but when things are good. That's the most effective time to come up with some kind of agreement and boundary that you both can agree on and you understand. Because when you come up with an agreement when things are good and a boundary when things are good, now when things arise, it's just you sticking to the agreement and the boundary that was set and not you trying to get their acceptance by further explaining why your perspective is the right perspective that they should just accept. Remember this, explain once, and if they continue to engage and debate and argue with you, always remember, stay calm, stay in control, but just walk away. Make sure you're aware to not engage in their debate and their anger because they're going to draw you in. And if they draw you in, then you essentially take the power from you and you give it to them, and you don't want to do that. So again, be aware, stay clear, but just say what you have to say one time and let that be that. Now, again, if they act crazy, then you have to implement a consequence. But always remember, you have to stay in control by setting the boundary and just not explaining why you chose what you chose. Now, if you want to give them the opportunity, because I think sometimes it is important for them to have their opportunity to communicate to you, if you will, if this is really important to them, tell them this. For now, my decision is my decision. If you want to further explain to me your perspective, you can write me a one-page paper on your perspective and why you think my choice should be different than what it is. Because it does a couple of things. When you actually implement something like that, number one, it allows you to understand how serious it is to them. Because if they have to go out of their way, it's not a school assignment, and they have to write a one-page explanation as to why they feel like your choice should be different, that allows you to understand if this is serious to them or not, or is really not a big idea. The other thing that it does is it actually gives them an opportunity to communicate their perspective without being interrupted. Because sometimes as adults, we hear the one thing, even though we're probably already going to say no in the end, we sometimes need to still allow them to communicate their perspective fully. Because if we just interrupt, even before they get done explaining, even though we understand it's going to be no, they feel like we're not even listening to them, period. We're not even giving them a chance. So by having them write something down, a one-page explanation, it allows them to get everything out without being interrupted. The third thing that it does is that when you get this one-page explanation, it also gives you a chance to evaluate and internalize whether your choice or decision in the end is going to be different. Because sometimes you might need to have some time just to kind of regroup and look at things to feel like, okay, did I make a choice too quick? And so it actually gives you time to really evaluate from that perspective. I would also like to ask a favor of you. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you like this video, please share it with some of your friends or people that you know could really benefit from this information. And I would also ask that you visit our website because we have various products that go into further in greater detail on this specific subject as well as other subjects related to youth. And if you have any kind of conference or live event or something pertaining to positive youth development or how to actually communicate or better understand and change and transform the behavior of youth, I would really love the opportunity to come and present to your audience and speak to your crowd. This has been Chris Cannon, your encouragement coach, reminding you that the battle is not lost unless you accept defeat.